Luke had always believed in love, the kind of love that wasn't shaken by time, by hardship, by the endless trials that life threw at two people. His love for Lillian wasn't just a passing emotion. It was a foundation, a certainty, an unshakable belief that no matter what, they were meant to be. He had built his world around her. Yet as he stood in front of room 367, his breath uneven, his fingers trembling at his sides, he realized something horrifying. He had been a fool. His gut had known before his heart did. The late nights, the secretive smiles at her phone, the way she no longer met his gaze when he asked how her day had been, the growing distance, the quiet withdrawal, the soft laughter that no longer belonged to him. He had pushed it all aside, believing she would return to him in time, that maybe she was just going through something, that maybe love was enough to keep them together. But love wasn't enough. Not when betrayal already had its claws deep in her heart. He could hear them inside. Lillian and him. The other man. Laughter. Glasses clinking. The unmistakable murmur of voices. His stomach twisted violently. Rage and agony swirling into something dangerous. The weight of the private investigator's report sat heavy in his pocket. Cold, undeniable truth. The evidence of a shattered reality. Lillian had checked into this hotel 3 times this week. Always room 367. His fingers hovered over the door handle. His chest rose and fell rapidly. His pulse pounding against his ribs. He had a choice. Walk away and let her deception win. Or open this door and face the cruel truth head on. His jaw clenched. He wasn't a coward. Not anymore. His grip tightened on the handle. And in one smooth, forceful motion, he pushed the door open. The door swung wide. The room's dim, intimate lighting revealed a scene that cut through Luke like a knife made of ice. Lillian sat on the edge of the bed, her golden hair tousled, her skin glowing under the soft light. The silk robe she wore slipped from her shoulder, revealing bare skin that wasn't his to touch anymore. And next to her, lounging in the same bed Luke had once worshipped her in, was the man, tall, dark-haired, smug, until his eyes landed on Luke and the color drained from his face. Luke didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. He let the moment hang, suffocating, as if daring Lillian to speak first. And she did. Luke. His name on her lips felt like venom. His expression didn't change. His hands didn't shake. He had already died in the hallway before opening this door. The man who loved Lillian unconditionally had already been buried. All that was left of him now was something cold, something unbreakable. She scrambled to her feet, taking a hesitant step toward him. It's not what it looks like. Lies. He let out a small, humorless chuckle. His voice was dangerously quiet. Oh, so you're telling me you're not sleeping with this guy? The other man flinched at the words, as if finally realizing there was no escape. Lillian's eyes filled with something Luke couldn't stand to look at. Regret. Guilt. But not love. Not anymore. She reached for him. Please, let's just talk about this, okay? This was a mistake. Luke's expression hardened. A mistake? His voice cut through the room like a blade. 3 times this week, Lillian. Room 367. How many times before that? Her lips parted, but she had no words because there was no excuse. She knew it. He knew it. And this man, her lover, knew it too. Luke's fingers curled into fists at his sides. He had been enough. He had loved her with everything he had, and she had thrown it away like it was nothing. But she would learn something very, very soon. He wasn't nothing. She would regret this. Oh, she would regret this, but not in the way she thought. Because this wasn't just a heartbreak. This was war. Luke didn't remember leaving the hotel. One moment, he was standing in that suffocating room, staring at the woman who had destroyed him. And the next, he was outside, the cold air slapping against his face. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone. Not from grief, not from loss, from rage. His thumb hovered over her contact. How easy would it be to let her go, to just erase her from his life? But no, that wasn't enough. She needed to feel this, She needed to know what it was like to lose everything. Luke was done being the trusting, naive man who believed in fairy tales. He had spent years giving her everything. His love, his loyalty, his future. Now he would take it all back piece by piece, starting now. He pulled up his lawyer's number, and as the call rang, a dark, vicious smile curled his lips. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Luke didn't drive home right away. Instead, he found himself sitting in his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The city outside moved on, indifferent to the fact that his world had just collapsed. People walked past on the sidewalk, laughing, talking, living their lives as if his wasn't burning down from the inside. But it wasn't grief that sat in his chest anymore. No, it was something colder, sharper, something that whispered, "This isn't the end. This is where it begins." His phone sat on the passenger seat, the screen dark, waiting for him to make the next move. He had already made the first call to his lawyer, but that wasn't enough. He needed a plan. He needed to strike before she could even see it coming. Luke exhaled slowly, his thoughts unraveling like threads, weaving into something calculated, something lethal. Lillian thought she had played him, thought she could cheat, lie, and walk away unscathed. She had no idea. He wasn't just walking away. He was taking everything with him. Lillian had always loved expensive things. She loved the finest restaurants, the designer clothes, the lavish trips to Europe. Luke had made it happen for her, every single time. He had worked his ass off, stayed up late building a future for them, growing his company so that they could have a perfect life. And yet, while he was working late nights, sacrificing for them, she had been sneaking into hotel rooms with another man. A muscle ticked in his jaw. How many nights had she come home to him after being with someone else? How many times had she kissed him with the taste of another man still lingering on her lips? His stomach turned. She had no idea what was coming. Luke's business, their joint accounts. But what she didn't know was that he had prepared for something like this long ago. Every account with her name attached. Frozen. The credit cards, blocked. Her perfect world was about to fall apart, just like she had shattered his. But this was only the beginning. Lillian arrived home later that night. Far too late. Luke had been waiting. Not for a conversation. Not for explanations. He was past that. She hesitated when she saw him sitting on the couch, his expression unreadable. "Luke," she started, her voice softer, careful, like she knew she had lost him but wasn't ready to accept it. He didn't move, didn't speak. She swallowed, inching closer. "I don't..." He cut her off. His voice was calm, too calm. A flicker of panic crossed her face. She knew that tone, the finality of it. "Lillian," he said quietly, looking at her as if she were nothing more than a stranger. "Your cards don't work anymore, do they?" Her eyes widened slightly. She reached in her bag, grabbing her phone with shaky hands. Her fingers moved fast, checking her accounts, and then her breath hitched. She looked up at him, her face draining of color. I told you," Luke said, standing up. "You made your choice. Now you live with it." She had always been good at lying, but this was different. This wasn't just a fight she could smooth over. Everything was slipping. Her father had always told her to marry well, to find a man who could provide the life she deserved, and Luke, he had been perfect for that. Hard-working, loyal, a builder of empires. But now she realized she had underestimated him. He wasn't just hurt. He wasn't just leaving. He was destroying everything she had built. And he wasn't done yet. Luke hadn't been stupid enough to let her get away with just cutting ties. No. He had dug deep. And what he found? The man she had been sleeping with. A married executive. Someone with far more to lose than she did. Luke picked up his phone. The number rang once, twice. A voice answered. "Who is this?" Luke smiled darkly. "You don't know me, but you've been sleeping with my wife." A pause. "Who the hell?" Luke cut him off. "Your wife's name is Hannah, isn't it?" Silence. Then a slow exhale. Panic. Luke's grin widened. "We should talk." Lillian had no idea what was coming. When her phone buzzed the next morning, she picked it up, expecting it to be Luke, expecting maybe an argument, a fight, some way to fix this. Instead, it was his wife, the other man's wife. And in that moment, Lillian realized this wasn't just about her affair anymore. Luke had made sure she lost everything. Luke sat in his office, his hands folded, his chest rising and falling evenly. His phone screen lit up. Lillian was calling. He didn't answer. She would learn that betrayal had a price, and he had just made sure she paid every last cent. Lillian sat frozen on the edge of the bed, the phone still clutched in her trembling hands. Her heartbeat pounded so violently that she could hear it over the silence that filled the room. She had known, deep down, that this moment was coming, the moment everything collapsed. But she hadn't expected it to happen this fast. Hannah's voice had been cold, calculated, ruthless. "You really thought you could screw my husband and get away with it? Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea what you started." Lillian had tried to explain. She had begged, but the other woman had only laughed. "I'm not Luke, darling. I'm not the kind of woman who lets things slide." The call had ended, leaving Lillian gasping for air as though the room was closing in on her. Her perfect little world, the security she had taken for granted, was crumbling at her feet. And Luke, she had underestimated him. Her lips parted, her breath uneven as she whispered to herself, "What have I done?" Luke sat in his office, completely still. His assistant, Julia, hovered near the door, shifting uncomfortably. She had worked for him for years and had never seen him this quiet. He wasn't the type to lash out, to throw things, to shout. No, his rage was different. It was cold, methodical, patient, like a storm that was still gathering strength. And right now, the storm was at peak. "You're sure the papers are finalized?" Luke asked, his voice even, calculated. Julia nodded. "Yes, your name is the only one on the deed now." The lawyers made sure of it. Lillian's claim to the house, the business, and the assets are all gone. Luke exhaled slowly, closing his eyes for a moment. "Good. Anything else?" Julia hesitated before speaking carefully. "She tried to access your accounts again. The bank flagged it." Luke's lips curled into a small, humorless smirk. "Of course she did. Decline every single one." Julia nodded and stepped out, leaving Luke in silence once more. Lillian had spent years living a life of comfort, never worrying about money because she knew Luke would always take care of her. Now she would learn the hard way that security wasn't something she could take for granted. Lillian stormed into the bank, her heels clicking against the marble floors. She had spent the past 24 hours in hell, with Hannah sending her threatening texts, with her lover ghosting her completely. And now she couldn't even access her own damn money. She was losing control. She approached the teller, forcing a polite smile. "There's been some kind of mistake. I need to access my joint account." The teller typed something into the system, glanced at the screen, then back at Lillian with a tight expression. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the account has been frozen." Lillian's heart stopped. "Frozen?" she repeated, her voice shaking. The teller nodded. "Yes, it seems that your name has been removed from the account entirely. There's no access granted to you." Removed. The word echoed in her head like a death sentence. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "There has to be some mistake. I'm his wife." The teller cleared her throat. "Actually, according to our records, you're not anymore." Lillian's entire body turned cold. Luke had already filed for divorce. She barely remembered leaving the bank. The world around her was spinning, the walls closing in. She needed to call Luke. She needed to fix this. Her hands shook as she grabbed her phone, dialing his number. It rang, and then, voicemail. "You've reached Luke. Leave a message." A cold lump formed in her throat. She tried again. Nothing. Her breathing turned ragged, panic clawing at her. She turned on her heel and rushed toward her car. She needed to find him, because if she didn't fix this soon, she would lose everything. Luke was expecting her. He had known the moment her accounts were locked, the moment the reality of the divorce hit her. she would come running. So when his phone buzzed again and again, he ignored it. And when the knock came at his office door later that afternoon, he already knew who it was. "Sir," Julia said, peeking her head in. "Your wife is here." Luke glanced up, his expression unreadable. "Ex-wife." Julia nodded. "Should I let her in?" Luke didn't answer immediately. He could hear the desperation in Lillian's voice from outside. "Please, just let me see him." For a split second, he almost felt pity. But then he remembered the hotel room, the laughter, the man who had taken his place, and just like that, any sympathy he might have had vanished. Luke exhaled and looked at Julia. "No, send her away." Julia hesitated, then nodded. "Understood." She stepped out, closing the door behind her. Luke sat back, staring at the ceiling. He could hear the argument from outside, Lillian begging to see him. He didn't move. She had made her bed. Now she had to lie in it. Lillian didn't stop. She pounded on the door, pleading, sobbing. "Luke, please, just talk to me." Silence. And then, security. 2 men in black suits approached her. "Ma'am, you need to leave." Lillian's head snapped up. "What? No, this is my husband. I need to talk to him." One of the men sighed. "Mr. Carter has given strict instructions not to let you in." Strict instructions. He wasn't even going to face her. Tears burned her eyes. "Please, just tell him I need to see him." The security guards didn't budge. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You need to leave now." And that was when it hit her. For the first time in years, Lillian was powerless. No money, no security, no control. Luke had taken everything, and now he didn't even acknowledge she existed. Luke sat in his chair, watching the security cameras. He watched as Lillian was escorted out of the building, her makeup streaked with tears, her hands shaking. She looked defeated. Good. But he wasn't done yet. Because true revenge wasn't just taking away what she had, it was making sure she could never rebuild. And that was his next move. Luke wasn't done. Not yet. He had stripped Lillian of her financial security. He had humiliated her by making her beg just for a chance to speak to him. But true revenge, it wasn't about leaving her wounded. It was about leaving her ruined. Luke leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the years he had spent loving her, protecting her, building a future for them. And she had thrown it all away for cheap hotel rooms and secret text messages. No, she didn't deserve to just fade into the background and rebuild her life somewhere else. She deserved to feel what he had felt, abandoned, exposed, shattered. So he pulled out his phone, dialing a number he had memorized in the last few days. "Mr. Carter?" The voice on the other end greeted him. Luke didn't bother with pleasantries. "Leak it." A pause. "All of it? Every single detail?" There was silence, then a quiet, "Understood." Luke hung up, his heart hammering in his chest. By tomorrow morning, the entire world would know exactly who Lillian was. Lillian woke up to chaos. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls, texts, notifications flooding in faster than she could read. At first, she didn't understand. Then her stomach dropped when she opened the first article. Socialite Lillian Carter exposed in explosive infidelity scandal. Husband Luke Carter speaks out. Her pictures, the hotel, the texts, all of it. Every dirty little secret. Lillian screamed. She tried calling Luke. Straight to voicemail. Her friends? No one answered. She turned on the TV, her hands shaking. Just in time to hear the reporter's voice. The story broke this morning, sending shockwaves through high society. Luke Carter, the self-made millionaire, was blindsided by his wife's affair with a married executive. The scandal has already cost her reputation as brands she previously worked with have begun cutting ties. Lillian staggered back, her world spinning. Her life, her perfect life, was over. Luke sat in his office, watching it all unfold. The scandal was everywhere. Everyone was talking about her. She had betrayed him in the most unforgivable way. And now she had nothing left. No money, no reputation, no allies. For the first time in her life, Lillian was well and truly alone. Luke exhaled, staring at his reflection in the window. It was over. She had taken everything from him, and now he had taken everything from her.